This is the Griffin Realty Group Ask-A-Griffin podcast, episode number 38. We enter a new series about features, property features. How should I start filtering through the features I want in a home? Are you a home seller or buyer who has questions about selling or buying residential property, but you can't find an easy way to get the answers? Well, then, hey, you are definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Griffin Realty Group and the host of the Ask-A-Griffin podcast. Now, to help you take immediate action to get started in the right direction, if you need to buy or sell property right now or in the very near future, you can take advantage of our free step-by-step guides. They're waiting for you over at griffincourses.com. All right, let's get started in this episode. Like I said, we are considering features, property features. And the question on the table is, how should I start filtering through the features I want in a home? So the first point here is you need to recognize that you are starting at the outer ring of the bullseye. You see, these days, everything is so accelerated. Instant gratification leads us to even our cell phones, where the tiny little pictures of the home show up with the details, and we're putting on our reading glasses if you're like me, or squinting at it, and you're trying to follow along and say, well, this is the property. So think about the phone as the smallest venue for looking at properties, but yet we're starting this massive process. Think about that juxtaposition. A tiny phone, a big process. And what you want to recognize is that process. And you want to understand it is a process. It's not an event of just looking at a property or 2 or 3 or 10 and deciding that's the one, and then off you go and you buy it. It would be so wonderful if it were that simple, but it's not. It's a simple process if you chunk it up with a lot of details that matter to you. Your commitment to this property, your commitment to the lifestyle that neighborhood brings you. There's a lot going on here. So you want to understand, I'm way out here when I begin. And I always say to buyers, look, I want you to recognize that when you go to that little white search box on your phone and you type in homes for sale in the neighborhood you're interested in, you just dreamed for the very first seedling of thought moment about buying a house. Okay, so you've taken it from your head, through your arm, typed it in, and there it is. That's the very first seedling of the process. And there's a long way to go from there. So just recognize that that's what it is, and that we're moving in towards what will eventually be a much clearer bullseye. Now, my caveat on landing on one specific thing for all of you really detailed folks. I do not believe that there is any such thing as the perfect property for any one of us. You might use that language, and if you feel that emotionally, wonderful. But there's never anything perfect, even if you build one. I've been through this process myself many times. I've taken many, many buyers over 21 years through this process, so there's no doubt about it. It's very difficult to get something at 100% perfection. So beware of that. What I say to people is, let's get you somewhere in the 90 percentile plus and recognize the last piece of that acceptance of that property as a blind leap of faith that it'll work out. If you've met about 95% of the things that you want in a house and you feel like you've compromised a few things, that's a pretty good indication that you'll be very happy in that property. Right? And again, you never know until you're in there. But I was just talking to somebody the other day that just has this beautiful purchase, and they're closing, and it's the first time they've ever done this, and they're well into their 50s. And so the process itself feels uncomfortable, like a suit that's too tight. And so in saying this, I said, look, just breathe. This is a fabulous product. Let's look at it logically and business-wise for a second. It's a fabulous product. But before you tell me you want me to come back and sell it for you and turn it for a profit, I want you to consider that you've never had your own home. So I want you to move your stuff in here, and I want you to sit still, and I want you to experience what the bullseye is like. So even when somebody's at that closing table and it's done and it's theirs and all these questions and these worries come up, that's just the fear-based stuff of not having been there or questioned, is this the new? And that can happen to somebody. You can act like a new home buyer the first time when you sell your primary residence for the first time in a long time and you move to another state. You can feel like you're starting all over again. Relax. You're coming all the way in from the outside to having that moment where if you'll just let it be what it is. See, remember, there was a lot that went on prior to you arriving at that bullseye-ish spot that you wanted. So sit in that home, relax, take a walk from the front door to the left, to the right, smell the roses, literally, and just enjoy it for what it is and see how it becomes a home. And if it doesn't fit, well, it's not the end of the world, but I want to talk to that a little bit too. How can we mitigate the risk that is not right for you? Let's keep going. Knowing that all of us as buyers start way out there, I want to give you a little inside real estate revelation that agents on the inside, us, oftentimes quip that buyers are liars. It's one of those goofy little sayings that I learned in business. I always scratched my head when I first got into the real estate business. Well, buyers are liars. Just remember that. What? What do you mean? Okay, so we just took 50% of our business and we make this negative presumption about all of them that they're lying. I still hear some people that just don't really know what they're talking about, quite frankly, that buyers are liars. You mean buyers are confused at the beginning of this process? And because you as an agent want to take from them the sale, you want to take the commission. And I'm not accusing people of being that blunt about it. Some are. But you see, the mindset of the agent has to change too, as well as what we're suggesting here for buyers. We all have to meet at this reality moment where this is a confusing process. And I know you might think that the internet has solved all of our problems. And isn't it great? The MLS is now on your phone. No, it's not great. In fact, it's so much information squeezed into a phone that now for a lot of people, the anxiety of filtering through all that has gone even higher. And worse, a lot of people presume, especially younger folks that are growing up on the phone and they never knew any better. Look, I've been around this business to see all sorts of its modes. When I was a young investor, I used to run off to the agency, sit down with the hardcover book and flip through the pages and then run out and see the properties. Then it went online. Then it became public. Now it's squeezed onto a phone. So nothing's really changed about the volume of information that's coming at us. It's just simply the medium through which it comes. And there's still a process to buying a house. So all of that medium and distribution of the information of property pictures and details has changed, but not the process. So understand it. And all you buyers agents, stop saying buyers are liars. They're confused, especially if they're early in the process. They're concerned. They're worried. They're overzealous and going too fast. There are a lot of emotional beginnings to such a big process, especially when a buyer doesn't know what they don't know. So your job is to step in instead of quipping about them and accusing them of lying to you. Be a better educator. That's my challenge to my fellow agents. And if you're a buyer, you should be looking for an agent who's already serving like that. Of service, very important words at the Griffin Realty Group. Be of service and the rest will follow. So the point is, you're just not really sure yet. So you come across as being elusive and perhaps even misinterpret as lying. So it is okay also to just say that. Say, look, I'm a little bit nervous here. I know I'm a financial savvy person when it comes to the market, when it comes to commercial real estate even. I've had a lot of commercial real estate clients come to me for residential advice. 2 different businesses. They behave very differently. Well, I'm a doctor all day. I'm a rocket scientist all day. You don't do what we do, so it's okay to tell us. I remember having a neurosurgeon. So I had a brain surgeon tell me when I asked him what he thought about the process. He said, oh my gosh, you guys have your own language. Yes, a brain surgeon who wasn't afraid to ask questions, was humble to say, this is confusing. Can you sort it out for me? Absolutely. Happy to do it. That's what we do. So it's important to understand that you just aren't certain. Say it and ask for help. A lot of you that are out there buying, you don't believe that you need a buyer's agent. I don't agree with you because there's an enormous amount of information that a good agent can act almost like you're a seller. They can do a full, not almost exactly like when a client is working with us. We always do a thorough financial evaluation, not just to price it for sellers, but to show the buyer that we think that that property that's been priced by somebody else is reasonable or not. and that we would use that very evidence when we're making the case for your offer. So you see what I mean? There's a lot going on there. Now remember, you can go to griffincourses.com and get the full buyer process plan that we give away for free. Go get it. Read the whole thing, and then you'll have the whole context of the right steps with or without us, okay? Now, the final point here is giving you permission to say it's okay to slow down the process, because buying a home is one of the largest financial and emotional commitments you'll ever make. So let me speak to this for a second. When you look at the process, like I just said, one of the things on the buy side, it's interesting how the buy side and the sell side in the real estate agency business work so differently. Even though you're matching up buyers and sellers in a market-making way, the buyer should know that representation like this is available. And the reason why that's not so clear is because the business itself is driven by listings, meaning properties are given to an agent who lists it with a contract and enters it into a multiple listing service where it is public information now. It used to be private just to agent, but now it's everywhere. So that's the first step, is to understand that the business works based on listings. So you're inventorying, per se, those listings that are attached to a human being called a seller. So you're really inventorying the seller and their property. Well, that doesn't work that way on the buy side. There's no conglomerate of agents conglomerating buyers and throwing them up into the marketplace. Rather, the buyer is randomly looking online at phones, whatever they might be looking at, calling their friend who's an agent, take me out, let me see this. Be careful of understanding that this is a professional situation. You need a professional representative, not just to take you through the threshold and to write up your offer, but to educate you. You are being represented. Financing and preparation around financing is the first step. Matching that financing with what the money's buying. So matching up the features of sold properties with the money. Then going out to tour and see what it's really like when you get offline. And now you see, okay, here's what it bought. Let's go see some things that are asking a little bit above or around that number. What do they really look like? Are these features important to me now that I thought online they were? When I see them in a touring situation, then as I go through enough touring, I'm ready to make an offer. Let me look at the analysis. Is that property really valued correctly? What should I offer based on the math? I negotiate terms and conditions until I come to a closing, and now I really have to cross T's, dot I's with my financing, with my banker, with my home inspector, and on it goes. That's a process. Now, I'm able to zip through it because I can see what I call, it's almost like imagine a lifesaver. Not the candy, but a real lifesaver that a lifeguard would throw to you in the pool, a circular device. I have a circular infographic that I give to my buyers and let them know where we're at so they feel like they're being saved through the process. And it's so that they can kick their own feet towards the promised land. I'm not going to drag them to shore. I want them to be empowered to understand that this is a process. So by slowing it down and doing some education, you can speed it up. I understand if you have to make a buying decision over the next 2 weeks because you got transferred, you have nowhere to live. I get that. But it doesn't mean you bull rush into a situation and make a bad financial commitment. Don't do that. There's no need in any kind of a market. Even in a hot market, let's just say you're moving for jobs and you're going into a white hot market. You just got hired by Amazon and you're running into the white hot market of Seattle. And you call up your agent, or I refer you out to one because I coach 3 of them out there. And you look at that and you say, okay, where do you really want to be? You want to live near Amazon? You want to live away from there? You want to live in the city? You want to live in the burbs? What do you want to do? Okay, how much do you want to spend? Have you been pre-qualified? We just go through the process. But we do it quickly. That's how you do it. I've had people come to me directly, want to buy one of my listings. We'll slow them down just for a beat and say, okay, appreciate it. You don't have a buyer's agent? No. Okay, we'll designate somebody from the Griffin Realty Group to walk you through the process. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's where you're at. Here's the analysis. And our sellers know that same analysis might be given away to a buyer. We're market makers. The more transparent the information, it's still the buyer and seller who are making a decision what they want to pay, but you're empowering both to be reasonable, Logical, cut out all the emotion, and come to an agreement. And that's the way you properly serve people, by telling them transparently the truth of the matter so they can come down out of emotional and make an intelligent, logical decision. All right, so let me go back and summarize these points here. We are in this features section of the buyer process with a question on the table that asks, how should I start filtering through the features I want in a home? Well, the first step is to recognize that you're starting at the outer ring of the bullseye of that process. And also recognize that you're going to be confused and that agents are quipping that you're a liar, but you're not. And don't be pressured by all that. Don't be pressured by anybody that's rushing you, an agent or anybody. And I'm not knocking my fellow agents. I'm trying to raise the standard for all of us. You're really just not sure yet. And that's okay. So instead of being elusive, just say out loud, I'm a little bit nervous. I don't know the answer. And remember, it's okay to slow down the process because buying a home is one of the largest financial commitments and emotional commitment you'll ever make. Let me summarize it this way. When you begin the process of searching for a home, it's important to recognize that you are starting a process that begins at the outer ring of the proverbial bullseye in search of a property that meets your needs and your lifestyle that you want. You should know that your confusion is a normal expectation and that it's okay to slow down to gain a high level of certainty before making such a big commitment. All right, remember, you can take immediate action to get started in the right strategic direction if you need to sell or buy property right now or in the very near future by getting our free step-by-step guides that are waiting for you over at griffincourses.com. Also, don't forget, you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you might listen so that you don't miss out on any insights, key word here, insights, each time we upload an episode. We also post all of our episodes on our social media channels, so just remember to turn on the notifications for Griffin Realty Group, and you won't miss the reminders. We'd also appreciate it if you would share our content with other people who are thinking about buying or selling property so that they get the help that they need. Hey, thanks for listening, but remember, nobody's coming for you, so you have to take action and get to work on your own plan for buying or selling your next property. And we will see you in the next episode to keep you prepared.